On Thursday, October 7th, 2021, the 10th anniversary of the Occupy Minneapolis event, four of us, including three candidates, gathered at People's Plaza between the Hennepin County Government Center and Minneapolis City Hall to talk about joint campaigning. I set up a video camera which did capture everyone's sound, but we were too close to the camera to get everyone in the screen, so the video part is pretty bad. In the most recent Sunday edition, the Star Tribune endorsed Mayor Jacob Fry. If an alternative candidate beyond Fry, Sheila Nazad, and Kate Canute is going to emerge, it will have to happen fast. So the next Thursday gathering may be a make or break event to organize and launch joint campaigning and possibly more frequent and larger People's Plaza gatherings from now to the election. The fourth person, candidate Catherine Kelly, arrived after our video session. Here's her brief statement, followed by our discussion.
How about this? What if I just say something really short?
Oh, go for it.
Short and sweet. Short and sweet. Hi, I'm Catherine Kelly. I'm running for Park Board Commissioner at Large. I am running on the platform of Park and Rec, People and Planet. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Well, here we are. You want to introduce yourself?
Terrell Perry, candidate for Minneapolis mayoral to serve the people of Minneapolis as mayor this election cycle. We're at our most pivotal point in our city's over 171-year history. We're facing so much, the need for racial reconciliation, education reconciliation, youth and young adult outreach reconciliation, housing. We literally have people sleeping on the streets in our city. Home ownership, small business reconciliation. We're driving down Lake Street and there's still piles of rubble everywhere. We have so much work ahead of us. God has blessed us with a unique opportunity to do so much, and we got to come together as people in the city of Minneapolis and put our hands to the plow. Once we do that, there's no limit to what we can do. So thank you, Mr. Carney, for having us out here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm Bob again Carney, also on the ballot as a Republican, trying to help the Republican Party get beyond Trump. I've been consistently saying that he's unhinged, unqualified, unfit to be president, paraphrasing Governor Pawlenty back in 2016. And we're looking at having an effort to have some group campaigning of candidates. This is something that we did in both 2009 and 2013. And in 2013, we had one candidate who was on the ballot who was homeless. We had another candidate who was facing a foreclosure. And we have some candidates this year that have some very tragic situations here. And you have lost two brothers, is that?
Two brother-in-laws.
Yeah, brother-in-laws.
Two best friends and a cousin. So yes, it definitely hits home when we're talking about violence being committed by individuals with firearms. And there's so much that we could be doing even on that front. I've been trying to get Chief Redondo, Mayor Fry. I met with the Hennepin County Sheriff last week. And they're saying they're willing to help. They're willing, they're ready, but they're waiting on that authorization. So Chief Redondo, Mayor Fry, if they could get that, then even we keep going, we were talking earlier about the defund the police thing. They're blaming all the violence on that. The council has approved new money to hire more cadets. They've approved new money to get officers on the streets, and the mayor has not used it yet. He has not used it, and it's been months since that new money was approved. On top of the fact that Hennepin County Sheriff is waiting to come in and assist and start helping save lives. Literally the lives of our children. We've lost children. Even within a span of weeks, we had Anaya that was shot and killed, Trinity that was shot and killed, the Davion who is still struggling to recover to this day. But so much has happened since then, we kind of moved past that. You know, when those families are stuck, those communities are stuck. People that drive past that memorial every day, multiple times a day, they're being re-traumatized all over again, and there's no closure to those situations. And we should be doing everything in our power to make sure that those families receive justice and that the city of Minneapolis as a whole receives justice, because it's affecting all of us. And once we realize that, I think more of us will be eager to get something something done with it. We should all be outraged about that. It shouldn't just be the ones whose lives it's individually touching, because again, it affects us all. Whether we realize it or not, it really affects us all.
Now, and you're working with another candidate who was who had someone shot and killed in his front yard.
That's Paul Johnson, his best friend.
Yeah.
Yes. The police responded to a mental health call. They were coming, supposed to be doing a welfare check, and within minutes, his friend was shot and killed. So yes, we got a lot of work to do. We have a whole lot of work to do. And then even last night on CNN, we're watching the news, and they're releasing body cam videos from the unrest over the summer from Minneapolis Police Department. And you have Minneapolis commanders saying that the officers are doing a good job out hunting people. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you guys are literally hunting people now. I like the change in tempo, you know, and I don't give a F about these people. That's coming from the leadership that's training use of force tactics within the Minneapolis Police Department. So once elected, we will be dumping out all those files. That's where reform starts.
Now, are those files public files right now?
They're not public. And what is, they're trying to hide from the people of Minneapolis. We have to be transparent. That's the only way that we're going to get any kind of accountability is through transparency. Yes, people want the police, but they want police officers that they can trust and that they feel are going to protect them and their families within this city. Not just business interests and not just property, but the people, the residents of Minneapolis. We all pay for that with our taxes, and we all deserve that. Humans, period, deserve that protection.
Now, we used to have a provision in the Minneapolis City Charter, and I'm going to get it up. I'll be doing the edited version of this to supplement it. And that provision had penalties for any elected official that was not carrying out requirements of the law. And of course, our city charter does require right now a minimum number of police officers, but that was deleted from the city charter when they had the rewrite.
Here's the follow-up. In the 2013 Minneapolis election, voters overwhelmingly approved what was presented as an updated version of the city charter, entirely replacing the current charter with a new one that we were told simplified and modernized the language without changing anything. Here's a side-by-side comparison of one key section. The old language, an entire paragraph, is on the left. The replacement language, only a sentence, is on the right. Here's the old language. You can freeze the video to read it. I think it's just wrong to say that this doesn't change anything. First, notice that while the term officer is used, it then talks about consequences for any person employed in the services of the city of Minneapolis. Since police officers are both called officers and are employed by the city, this clearly applies to city elected office holders, department senior management, and all police officers, who are both appointed and sworn. These people are guilty of a misdemeanor if they act or fail to act according to provisions of law, which includes all laws, and more specifically both the city charter and city ordinances. If convicted under this chapter provision, the convicted person loses their office, can never hold a city office again, and here's the real kicker, can be sued by any taxpayer or citizen, requiring them to repay any amount lost to the city resulting from their wrongful act or wrongful failure to act. These are serious consequences. If this deleted paragraph had been in effect today, police officers could be personally liable for repaying any amount to the city in a lawsuit. As another example, we should also ask if city officials illegally allowed the city to assume a financial obligation for the Viking Stadium in violation of a city charter requirement for a referendum, could they individually or as a group be required to repay the city's financial commitment for the stadium? It seems clear that this charter provision, originating as a reform from the progressive era, had some real teeth. But as noted, this was all deleted and replaced with a sentence. Elsewhere, the new charter language limits the meaning of officer to only elected officers, board and commission members, and some others. All other employed people are not officers. More specifically, Minneapolis police officers don't appear to be officers for purposes of applying charter provisions. Beyond that, a penalty can only be for a violation of a city ordinance, not a violation of either the charter or any other source of law. And the penalty goes no further than forfeiture of office. A person can hold an office again by being appointed or reappointed, or by winning a subsequent election. The original language seems tailor-made for holding police officers accountable, including the fact that their explicitly specified financial obligation to repay the city if convicted can be provided for with professional liability insurance. This is all relevant to the discussion we'll now continue with.
So we'll be taking a look at that at the time that Mayor Ryback was in office. That was actually enforced. So that's been changed to Janet. You want to come over and tell us a little bit about your experience with Occupy and some of the issues that you're looking at?
Well, I'm very concerned about the police, of course, and I feel like we're getting run around about all these pseudo solutions when the real solution is to hold officers accountable. There's a dismal rate of discipline and dangerous. You'll find that every officer that kills somebody, just about all of them have a bad record behind them of violence, sometimes even killing. And they need to be disciplined just like anyone else. There needs to be a lot more prevention. The training needs to be better. There's just so many common sense things that aren't being done. And they're talking about, we've got to completely stop it. No, the answer is right there. It's called discipline and firing and prosecuting police. Because some of them get away with murder, and some of them are in jail while collecting pensions, by the way.
Now, and you've been involved in an effort to try to have the professional liability insurance.
Yes, right.
Also. So
That was the beauty part of it. It was very carefully crafted, to hold up to any kind of scrutiny by lawyers, whatever. We took it to the Minnesota Supreme Court after it was thrown out by the city of Minneapolis. They did a lot of obstructionist things at City Hall. For instance, they didn't want to count the name of one of the few city council members who actually signed our petition, claimed that her signature was not valid. Seriously.
But she did sign.
She signed. Oh yeah, she definitely signed. So they did everything they could do to stop that. But the beauty part of the police liability insurance is that the minute that it takes effect, every single dangerous cop would be out of their job. They would not be able to work anymore. In other words, you don't have to go through any trials or whatever. There aren't any other steps that you have to go through to get rid of the main problems. And let's face it, insurance companies are all about figuring out liability. They don't need any help from us. This would be such a clean thing. And the one good part of it is, although we failed here, this has been taken up in a number of other states. Colorado's looking at it. New York City. The minute it happens, all those bad officers are gone. And things get better immediately. So, yeah, they dropped the ball. This could have been on the map. It could have been a precedent. But
now, and then how would that affect the liability of the city of Minneapolis?
Oh
Because
yeah, well,
the city has been paying out
huge amounts of money. And presently, of course, there's a lot of money being drained by officers going on PTSD leave and then quitting and getting their pensions. This is huge sums of money. which are available through data practice. Or no, actually, I think it's.
Well, according to an article that was just written, we're negative $98 million right now
Yeah.
in that fund.
And as you were talking about, one of my big concerns is the homeless, because I think it's a crime against the people for there to be people who are unhoused, and it feels to me like it goes back way back in our history to the Calvinist founders who basically the philosophy there was, well, if God loves you, then you have stuff, you have a home. That the fact that you have these things makes you a good person. So why do you have to care about people who are poor and starving in the streets and live differently? So this is going to be a sea change in the whole country, and I think it is coming, because I see more and more people say housing first, not giving people warm socks and nice knitted sweaters. It doesn't do it if you don't have a place to lay your head at night where you can feel safe. So that's my end of my story.
So we're down here at People's Plaza, the Government Center, North Plaza between the Government Center and City Hall. This is the 10th anniversary of the Occupy movement in Minneapolis. And there's nobody but the three of us here. So we're using our free speech rights to talk about political issues. But it seems that people are kind of hunkered down and in their silos. And what do you think's going on? Why do you think people are not engaging publicly?
I think COVID might have a lot to do with it, but as far as this political circle, I think people are more concerned about their self, their name, and what they're going to be getting out of a situation versus being concerned about the people. Because you invited all the candidates down.
Yep. And I did get emails from a few more that were interested for various reasons. But let's keep doing this. Let's keep working on
I
this.
got messages from a couple too.
Good.
But just making a cohesive plan to make sure that we reach out to all of the communities. We know the streams, not all of the forums were in person. We had one in person last week, but they've been on live stream. Not everybody. My brother and I was laughing about it early, like, you don't think about it because we're in 2021 where everybody's walking around with a smartphone. Some people don't have a TV. Some people don't have a computer. Some people don't have internet, so to put all of that onto the internet as if people are going to be informed and the media is not covering any of it, I think that puts us in the long run, and it sends voters to the polls uninformed, or they are only informed about that the media chooses to show them, the people that the media is comfortable with being elected because they know that their business interest is still going to be protected. When candidates like us are looking at the people and the interests like housing first, jobs, business reconciliation. People have been using their political experience too as a reason they should be elected, their former or their current connections, current business connections. All of that is reason for people in Minneapolis not to vote those people in. We need somebody that's not connected to anything like that, but that is going to genuinely fight on behalf of the people and not be deterred by any outside forces, that does not genuinely represent the people. So I'm just hoping that at least enough voters get that into their mind. They're able to hear that and understand what's at stake this election. People have heard it before, but this is the most important election in our city's history, of my lifetime, of many of our lifetime, the most important one. So I'm hoping that there's record attendance in communities across the city, and people come out to make sure that their voices are heard and their families are represented in this election cycle, whether that's the mayor or the council seats, and there's other at-large seats too. The park board, BET, that stuff is important whether we realize it or not. These people are making policies that govern our lives every single day, and the lives of our children as well.
I've been kind of on an Upton Sinclair reading binge lately. One of the books I read is The Brass Check, which is his examination of both his own experiences with the press and journalism back around the early years of the 20th 20th century, and it's really striking how much of an interlocking system he documents there, and also it seems that is continuing forward right now. But essentially, the media it's basically an industry that's dominated by private businesses.
That's right.
And it's a for-profit system, and the relationship between the media and advertising is pretty striking. And Sinclair documents that in very great detail, going on back in his era. That you simply, you can't step. There's a whole, and literally, some people, editors in city papers, they had a list, pages long, of people that you can't mention in the paper. That it's hard to think that isn't going on today. So we need to figure out some way to get around this.
There has to be some level of transparency.
Yeah.
My grandma, she's like, yeah, the news said, a lot of people think, they genuinely believe that the news is the real deal. Like, these people are researching what they're talking about before they say it. They can't lie, otherwise they'll lose their jobs. That is not the case. They all have their own agenda, and they're going to tell us what they want us to know, to think what they want us to think. Malcolm X said the media is the most powerful entity on the face of the earth. They have the power to make an innocent man guilty, a guilty man innocent, and they have the power to control the minds of the masses. That's what they do. So I was even telling somebody the other day, when they say Janet said or Carney said, that means it's not official. They're evading liability right there by saying somebody else said it. If it was a fact, they would state it as a fact.
And based on what Sinclair describes, it actually seems that it's getting better in the sense that I think that the factual reporting of the media is more accurate. But the other point that he makes is what the media doesn't tell people and doesn't cover.
There you go.
And I think that's maybe where the real molding and shaping of how people think and how people behave really goes on. Well, let's keep working on this. I think we're basically at a wrap here today for October 7th, 2021, 10th anniversary of the Occupy movement in Minneapolis. Thanks for coming down. Let's keep working on this.
It has never died. And in fact, I wanted to add a word of hope, which I'm not really very good at doing.
Yeah.
And that is that I see a lot of strikes happening all over the United States. I see a lot of people say, $15 an hour? F off. I ain't got time for that. I might as well just have fun. I'll make my own life. And I think that, the folks in City Hall and other places in they got to be a little nervous for what's going on.
We'll see what's going to happen.
Because
I'm calling for
a general
elections.
strike, we're paralyzed. We, the workers, we do the work. They sit in there and write their little resolutions. Oh, they wrote such a nice one about Occupy. And then, of course, it came down that you couldn't chalk on the Plaza. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, you couldn't do it. In other words, get the hell out of here.
But we did get the porta potties.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and
Gotta celebrate those wins.
That Occupy spirit carried over into Katrina. They were helping Katrina. They helped Hurricane Sandy. They're the ones that do the real stuff. The government is an awful lot incompetent, spending your money in ways you have no idea. I don't know.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was on a mental health call this morning with the Minnesota Governor's State Advisory Council talking about children's mental health, and they were talking about the amount of money that goes into our county health care. 46% of our county taxes are going to the health department. And there's laws in place that say they have to be transparent and take community input about that stuff. But there's multiple people on the call that are saying, I've been going to the meetings, they won't let us talk, they won't tell us this information, like stuff like that. And a lot of people don't know what's going on behind closed doors. 46% of the taxes, and there's no accountability.
Yeah.
That allows for corruption.
The wild part of this whole COVID thing is they had a warning about a pandemic coming up. They were not prepared for it. they shuffled around, didn't do the right thing. You know, again, the people step up and figure stuff out. But,
That's right.
But they, having homeless people walking around in a pandemic with no sanitary facilities, and this, of course, has been going on for, you know, a long time.
That's right.
There should be bathrooms, facilities, public bathrooms all over the city. There should have been public water fountains, but our friend Mr. Ryback had decided he wanted to 10 monuments to his greatness and his appreciation of art. And guess what?
These are the gold-plated water fountains.
Yeah, the one down by the light rail on Lake Street, where the light rail station, where a lot of homeless people are, it's not working. So you know, I think you know, I have a certain amount of things in me because people have had it. You know, throw me your breadcrumbs. No, not buying that.
Yeah.
We need better.
We used to be grateful and say thank you for that, but we're realizing, like you said, we deserve way better.
And they're putting everyone in danger. This is a, you know, having homeless on the street is a public health problem. It's a third world problem where you know get diseases like polio and other, you know, things that have practically disappeared. But you know, that they don't even care about their own kids apparently, and that's very worrisome.
Or they feel like they've removed their kids far enough to where it's not a problem for them, you know. And even as far as the shooting and all this stuff, you would think like, wow, one of you guys could get hit by one of these bullets, but they're not thinking that. They're like, well, no, we're up in the sky somewhere, some fancy skyscraper, while people in North Minneapolis are scared to lay down and go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know,
This is a crime.
It is.
So criminal.
and it's
You know,
in everything.
And there's all this drug addiction that there is. There would be so much less of that if they started helping people. Because drugs, yes, they're fun and they're recreational, but most people would not choose that unless they were desperate and going, well, I might as well have some fun, you know, while I'm here. And, you know, just there's no hope of anything better. So what do I care?
That's it, Janet.
So it's like, yeah, we could turn the society around. There is so much room for so much beautiful stuff to happen. There really is. But we need to get rid of these clowns who are not doing anything. Undermining justice.
We need leaders who are not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. That's Martin Luther King. And they're all quoting all these. They're quoting all these black folks, you know, because it's election time, and it's like, where are the ones that matter? Where are the folks that matter?
He said brilliant things and acted brilliantly. Muhammad Ali.
That's where it counts, the actions behind the words, right?
So anyway, with that.
Well, this is a good discussion. You know, I have to mention too, I am a Republican, and I'm trying to sort through all these things. One thing I will mention, you know, when we had the porta potty issue, Hennepin County Board voted 4-3 to allow porta potties. And I actually met with Jeff Johnson, who was one of the Republican members of the board, and he voted for it. So, you know, there was a little bit of piece of progress. But we've got a lot of rethinking to do. You know, I'm trying to advance all kinds of different ideas that I think would be appealing to Republicans to address these issues. And it is very important for us to have a dialogue and talk about these things. You know, one of the things I'm looking about is a system for a just-in-time energy, so vehicles can actually have a dose of hydrogen gas or a battery charge delivered while they're moving, and we could actually get to zero emission carbon for transportation by 2030. You know, there's another guy that was writing at the time of Upton Sinclair that had an idea for what he called Road Town, which would be to build a totally connected strip of housing that goes along a transportation right-of-way. And, you know, I've actually worked up a patent along that idea to address the issue of providing housing. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we can look at to start to address these issues. And, I think it's very important for us to all get together and talk about these things and think about what we can do. And that's what we're doing.
A long time ago,
Yeah.
I looked at the platforms of parties, and I looked at them and I said, well, that sounds just really good. They all sounded very good. But when it came to the actual human beings who were supposed to be carrying these things out, that didn't work so well. I could have gone with, I'm actually very conservative in my ideas, about taking care of the earth. I mean, I am very, how can I say it, cheap, whatever. I care about what happens on this planet. We need to take exquisite care of it so that children have something to inherit. And right now, the global warming situation is very alarming to me. But yeah, all these philosophies, they sound beautiful on paper, but then you get the corruption that comes in, and that's what the problem is. Just incredible corruption.
We have a very good lock system, that's for sure. I'm convinced it's just been totally locked up since the progressive era. I've got a domain name that I bought. I'm starting not using it, but I've come up with the phrase Corpica, Corpica. Take America, chop off the front part, and put corp there, and you have Corpica. And believe it or not, that domain's name was available. Nobody had thought of it before. $10. There it is. But this is the situation that we're in. Our whole system of government, was replaced sometime in the 1800s and going forward into the progressive era by what I call a system of Corpica. And so we just need to do some fundamental rethinking about what is going on in this society and what we can do about it.
Yeah, and I think people need to look. I love the generosity of everybody. People taking home socks to people who are at home, but they need to start looking at the real root causes and getting to that, because the homeless situation everywhere in the world. When you have people being made homeless by war, everyone's trying to come in to southern border, and it's tragic what's happening now. Especially with families that are separated. That is the breakdown of society when you take kids away from their parents. Not that some parents shouldn't have that done, but it's just, the world could be so much better place. A beautiful place.
Well, it's been a good talk. Let's keep business.
Good meeting you. I already know this character.